and welcome inside the historic Chicago International Amphitheater. In the 1930s, it was the home of the World's Fair. 1968, the site for the riot-torn Democratic National Convention. But tonight, it's a place where these superstars of monster truck racing have gathered for the next stop on the Renegades TNT Monster Truck Challenge. Hello, I'm Richard Leake, and tonight is the third event of the 1989 National Championship Point Series. Joining me as usual down on the track is Army Armstrong. And Army, as we're about to start tonight's races, one thing has become evident after our first 2 point events of the year. Gravedigger and driver Dennis Anderson is the truck to beat.
Well, like you said, Richard, this is our third event, but we only have one winner. That winner being the awesome Gravedigger. He did what he said he was going to do. He actually detuned, stole a little bit of horsepower out of the truck, and it is working for him. Right now, he is your points leader.
Now, you may ask yourself, where's the defending champion, USA 1 and Rod Litzow? Well, they are not here tonight. We'll tell you why and even show you why in just a few minutes. Coming up next, it's round one action on ESPN. It's the Major League of Professional Monster Truck Racing as we welcome you back to Chicago, where the qualifying has been completed and we are set to go with round one pairings. Now, the pairings are according to the times run during qualifying. And our top qualifier and the quick time of the night was 4.6 seconds. That went to Gary Porter and Carolina Crusher, as he will get a bye run in the first round of competition. Now, the rest of the pairings go like this. You see Crusher will get that bye run. Then it'll be fifth fastest, Dave Wysork and Nightlife against Jesse Berge and playing for keeps. Gravedigger with Dennis Anderson ran third fastest. He'll face Tennessee's John Moore and no problem, the Ford. Then it'll be John Breen and Mad Dog, our fourth quickest monster, against the Barbarian and Jim Miller. Starvin' Marvin Smith, Stomper Chevrolet takes on Bob Breen and the Wild Hair. And then we'll wrap it up. Round one with our second fastest truck, the Equalizer and rookie driver David Morris. He'll take on the Master of Disaster and Doug Spanier. But Army, let's get her cranking. This is Carolina Crusher and Gary Porter.
Well, Gary Porter comes out with the Carolina Crusher to get the bye run, and that could be awfully important a little bit later. That's why qualifying is so tough in this particular sport. He will have lane choice throughout the evening, and that could play an important role in this event.
And, of course, by getting that bye run, not really going side by side with anyone, it helps him save his equipment. As coming out next, as we're ready to go door-to-door racing, it's the Mountain Man, Jesse Berge, playing for keeps, and he'll be taking on Mr. Quiet himself, Dave Wysork, Nightlife. This will be a Chevrolet against a Chevrolet.
Well, Richard, as you know, we go across the country, and Wysork is developing a tremendous following, and one of the reasons being his driving style. He always drives, like you told the people before, with his head out the window. It's the way he learned to drive, and it works that way for him. He'll be working the far lane from us. Closest to us will be Jesse Berge, the gentle giant, the big man out of Wyoming. He'll lay a good shot down for you. The question is, Wysork says he can win this evening, and that's the first step right there. He'll be advancing to the next round.
As a matter of fact, Army, it was an easy win for 27-year-old Super Dave Wysork out of Grand Island, Nebraska.
Dave, what's it like out there tonight?
It's getting pretty rough. The cars are getting pretty flattened out, but I don't know. This is a good lane I've been running in, so hopefully I can keep that all night.
Did the truck feel okay to you? Is it making horsepower all the way through?
You bet. It feels real good tonight, so hopefully we'll do real good. Be in the final.
Well, one monster truck we have really been looking forward to seeing on the track is not going to be in competition. We're talking about Bennett Clark in Clydesdale as Yogo does his moonwalk backwards there. Bennett Clark had problems in qualifying earlier this afternoon, Army.
Well, Clark came out for that qualifying session, and people don't realize how important that is because it not only sets the pairings for the round, but it's very important in this points chase. Clark came out with the long wheelbase truck. We've been talking about that. It's a new concept, a lot longer, 144.5-inch wheelbase. Came out, and I want you to watch the truck when he makes his run. Watch the rear suspension. He had a good run going. He came over the first hill, but the front end went up on him, and when it did, it kicked on him real bad. It landed, and the right rear wheel assembly completely came off.
And you can hear the crowd in the background from that videotape. They absolutely went crazy when that happened. They loved it.
Well, they enjoyed it. You watch the landing now. He touches down once. It looks pretty clean. But when it comes down the next time, the nose in front and then the back settles, that was it. Broke the spindle right off of it. So Clark is going to be out of the competition, and that'll hurt him as we go in this national points chase. He will not receive any points this week.
Well, you know the story behind Bennett Clark, a former national champion rodeo bull rider. He's out of this event.
Been an awfully tough break. Do you have any idea what caused that to happen?
I don't really know. I hadn't really had a time to look at it. I think it's the well where I adapted the case planetary onto the 5-ton military axle. I think the well's broke right there.
Okay, we just found a piece over here about a foot long of an axle that was completely gone. Could it have happened with a broken axle? Would that have caused that?
It might have. I left the ground. I come down real hard on the back end without the front end pulling. It might have just snapped the axle, turned the tire a little bit. I don't have any idea. I just have to look at it a little further.
I'm sorry for your bad luck, bud.
Thank you, Army.
Well, another superstar monster is also on the sideline tonight, Army. Awesome Kong, with owner Jeff Dana aboard, came out to qualify, but he was sent back to the pit area by TNT officials.
Okay, Mike Speller, the TNT official, you can see him sitting in front of the truck. He made the truck come out, lock all 4 wheels up, then hit the throttle, and what was happening, the front brakes would work or the rear brakes would work, but all 4 of them would never work at the same time. Jeff's been around this sport a long time. He realizes how safety conscious TNT is. He accepted the decision. He will not be going for the points.
So we are back to live action now. Round 1 competition underway, and here comes the guy that has won all the events thus far in 1989. Gravedigger, Dennis Anderson, Chesapeake, Virginia, against no problem John Moore, the Ford Bronco. Dennis, the Menace Anderson, has certainly been a menace to all the other guys thus far.
Well, they kind of picked on him in 1988. That was 1988. 1989, we've only had 2 events. He's won 2. He's going for 3 in a row. He's found the combination. Everybody knows it, but you're not going to be able to count John Moore out. He's going to give him a race. Moore ran a good race. The Gravedigger just ran an exceptional race.
Dennis, the Menace Anderson, Gravedigger wins another one in Chi-Town as we go down trackside with Army.
Okay, Dennis, you qualified out of the right lane, but you took lane choice and went to the left lane. Why'd you do that?
Well, the right lane kind of crossed me up a little bit, and I felt like the left lane is a better lane. I've won, 2 nights in the left lane, so I just want to stay in the left lane all I can.
Gary Porter's coming after you like a fast-moving freight. Can you hold him off tonight, or can you make it 3 in a row?
I don't know. I'm going to try to make it 3 in a row. We've been battling it all weekend. He's really got it out for me, but I've got it for him, too.
Well, the Monster Mash in Chicago will continue. When we return, it's going to be Mad Dog against Barbarian and more first-round action on the Renegades TNT Monster Truck Challenge. And welcome back to the historic Chicago Amphitheater. The Renegades TNT Motorsports Monster Truck Challenge Series continues. Round 1 action, as coming out next is going to be John Bad to the Bone Breen and the Mad Dog Chevrolet taking on, I guess you might call this the local hero, Jim Miller, the Barbarian. It's a Ford from right here in Illinois.
Yeah, Miller's out of the Illini State. Would love to put out a good run in front of his home state crowd. However, out of Missouri comes up Mad Dog, John Breen, one of the drivers who's been at this sport. He was probably involved in the sport, Richard, and definitely in its infancy. I would say he's been driving monster trucks for well over 15 years. If anybody knows how to get a truck to work, it's going to be the Mad Dog truck of Breen. He backs up to go against the Ford. The classic battle shapes up Ford versus Chevrolet. Illinois going against the state of Missouri.
Now, engine-wise, the Chevrolet of John Breen, 454 cubic inch. The Ford, 490.
Good run by Breen, working the left side of the track. He's going to be advancing. The Ford not going to be able to get the shot he wants. He'll have to wait for another day to go into the winner's circle.
So the Mad Dog with John Breen, he'll move into the quarterfinals, and we move on in round 1 competition. And here is John's brother, Bob Breen, the Wild Hair Chevrolet, and he's going to be facing one of the top Chevy trucks in America. We're talking about Stomper with Starvin Marvin Smith. Starvin is out of Arnold, Missouri. The Chevrolet and the Stomper machine well known to all the fans across America.
Well, the interesting story here is Breen in the Wild Hair truck, and I tell you what, all last year this truck was a guinea pig. The one closest to the camera, they used it as research and development. They found out what they wanted to find out. Now they've taken the horsepower and put it in this truck, and it seems to be working for Breen. However, like you say, Marvin Smith sitting off to his left is going to be a tough hombre to get by in this. Oh, Smith, we've got a problem.
Yeah. But the Stomper comes back and takes the win. Marvin Smith takes the win Wait a minute.
Richard, I don't think they're going to let it stand. Wild Hair is going to be declared the winner by virtue of a false start. You notice we go back to the replay.
I don't know about this call, Army.
Well, Alan Goss, right on the starting line, the Renegade track official, what happened when they put the truck in gear, the torque converter locked up and pushed it maybe 2 or 3 inches, but that is forward motion. That's considered leaving the starting line.
I'll tell you what, an awfully close call, but they have ruled Stomper has been disqualified, and he is out of the competition. Coming out next is Doug Spanier, the master of disaster. And look out, Doug, you're taking on a dandy. It's the rookie driver, David Morris, the equalizer machine out of the volunteer state of Tennessee.
Morris is the kid that everybody's going to be watching out for this year. This truck is completely different as far as the theory behind it. It has coilover springs. The engine is located behind the driver and low for a real low center of gravity. A lot of people think that David Morris is going to be the man to beat this year. That's a strong possibility. Look how smooth he is off of that right side of the track, Richard. That's the first win we've had off of that right side.
So dangerous David Morris, and the equalizer Chevrolet gets another win under the belt. Dave will now move into the quarterfinal round of competition, and he's going to move over to Army.
Well, David, you're going to the next round of eliminations, and notice that the builder of the truck is already headed back to the pit area with it. Did you have any kind of problems on that run?
Yeah, I don't know if carburetors are loading up on it or what. Still having a little problem with keeping my engine running, so I have to get him to take it out for me. If we'll shut it off, I might not be able to get it started.
That is Gary Porter, the driver of Carolina Crusher. I think he's found him a replacement hood for his car, Army.
Yeah, a part-time auto repairman there. What he's doing, he's getting that hood out of the way. That's a safety move. I like it.
All right, earlier in the show, we told you that the defending national champion, Rod Litzow, is not here. We're going to show you why. In our first night of competition in Chicago, the defending national champion had disaster strike him not once, but twice.
Richard, on this replay, I want the people at home to watch the front wheels on the truck. What you're going to notice is the front wheels will continue to turn. The brakes working only on the rear of the truck. He's a little bit out of shape when he lands, bounces to the left. Now he has to throttle to straighten out. After he throttles, he cannot stop the truck.
Bam. Right into the wall.
Now, what happened here, we were not aware of it, nor was the crew aware of it at this time. A front axle had broken on the truck when he lands right here. The truck kicked over to the left. Now, at this point, you must throttle to get it back down. He was on the throttle. The rear wheels, you notice, are locked up. The front wheels not stopping him, takes him right into the wall.
And Rod Litzow had the truck pulled out, went back to the pit area, came out to race again, but look out, disaster one more time.
Disaster exactly is what happened here. Litzow, not knowing the front end was broken, literally wedges the truck under the upper barrier here in the stadium. This was a very, very tense moment on this tour. Everybody was scared to death. Again, I want the people at home to notice the front wheels. They continue to turn. The brakes are not working at all. He comes up and wedges the truck right there. He didn't even get to the wall. The front of the truck barely touched the wall, but look at the driver's compartment, Richard.
And we're happy to say Rod Litzow got out of the truck. He was transported to a hospital just as a precautionary move, and he was released from the hospital okay. And it's kind of ironic that earlier in the day, Army, you spent some time talking to Rod about his reckless driving style.
I do like to push things to the limit. Anywhere I ever went racing with cars or anything I've done, I always like to push it to the limit and I like to win. The thrill to me in driving a monster truck is how much power. It's like the most power in a motor vehicle around right now. We're big, the powerful motors, and we can destroy anything. It's just, I love the power in them.
Well, perhaps another day, another time for USA 1. Who will be the king of crunch car racing in Chicago? When we return, it's quarterfinals on the Renegades TNT Monster Truck Challenge on ESPN. We are back in Chicago where the superstars of professional monster truck racing are in the quarterfinals now. It's got to be Carolina Crusher Gary Porter against Super Dave Wysorick and Nightlife, 2 Chevrolets, Army.
Porter sitting in the far lane. Quick qualifying time gave him lane choice. That could be awfully important, but Wysorick has really pushed him to the limits. The Crusher's going to advance, but believe me, Wysorick made him work for that, Richard.
So Gary Porter out of Wadesboro, North Carolina, takes that powerful Chevrolet into the semifinals, and he is going to be facing the winner of this matchup, which has Dennis the Menace Anderson and Gravedigger taking on Doug Spanier and the Master of Disaster.
Richard, I'm interested in something here. I'm keeping an eye on where they line up. Now, you remember, the Carolina Crusher has already made a statement to us. The left lane's the place to be, and Anderson says the same thing. Eventually, they're going to work to each other. That could set up literally a war over who's going to get lane choice. The awesome red lights of the Gravedigger working the left side of the track. Spanier with the Master of Disaster, really out of shape, stands it up.
A good run by Doug Spanier, but not good enough as Gravedigger will advance. And he is going to be facing Gary Porter and Carolina Crusher in the semifinals. Let's ask Dennis about that matchup.
Gary Porter, he's still in this thing. Gary Porter wants you. He's pulled no bones about it. He wants to come after you. How do you feel about that? It looks like you might just have him in that next round.
Well, Carolina Crusher's tough, and I'm tough, but I've got something for Carolina Crusher.
Whoa, listen to Dennis Anderson and his confidence. Army, you got any idea what Dennis has up his sleeve?
No, but I wonder who's going that left lane when they do meet, Richard.
That'll be interesting as we find out who is also going to be in the semifinals with this next race. It is John Bad to the Bone Breen and Mad Dog against Jesse Berge playing for keeps. Jesse gets to come back as our second fast loser in the opening round of action.
Breen works the left side of the track. Berge comes over to the right. Now, Jesse Berge's running a lot of horsepower, but he's not a supercharged vehicle, and it's a short wheelbase vehicle. This truck is not really in the atmosphere it wants to be in. It's not handled real good for him. Mad Dog is going to advance. Berge's going to have to wait for another day.
So another easy win for John Breen out of Barnett, Missouri in the Mad Dog Chevrolet. He will be in the semifinals coming up in a few minutes here in Chicago.
John, we're down to the final four. You're going to be one of them. What are your plans?
I'll just hold it wide open. The only thing you can do. Everybody's running real hard, and to beat them, you really got to hammer it.
Now, wouldn't it be neat if John could face his brother Bob in the semifinals? We'll find out as Wild Hair and Bob Breen faces a rookie, dangerous David Morris and the Equalizer. David has been really the rookie sensation thus far this year, Army.
Well, he and the truck, the rookie driver is doing a great job, but the truck is working super well for him. It's all the suspension engineering. Look at that now. Breen is running more horsepower than he's ever had, and the kid still drills him on the starting line. This Equalizer truck is unique, Richard.
And one thing interesting is David Morris is the only monster truck to win coming out of the right lane on the track. So he moves to the semifinals, and we move to an introduction of the Equalizer truck.
Once again, the chassis is one of the most important parts of any motorsporting vehicle, and everybody's got their own idea of what works in a monster truck. Now, standing with me right now is really a second-generation individual involved in motorsports, that being Gary Cook, the gentleman that owns and is responsible for building the Equalizer monster truck. And Gary, one of the most unique things about this truck and the chassis setup you have for your driver is the engine location. Can you tell us about the engine location and why you built it that way?
We felt like the truck would balance better by getting the engine as low as possible and to the rear to get the weight off of the front end, so that when you hit, it won't tend to nosedive. It'll tend to try to level out more so than nosedive. Kind of a stock car. I used to run stock cars for several years a long time ago, and we tried to take some of the principles from stock cars over into this.
The softness is a result of spring setup and a different front suspension you have on the truck with the A-frame type setup or the wishbone. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, it lets the front axle pivot without pivoting the body. The body can actually ride separate, you might say, from the axle. The axle can move without moving the body so that you don't whip the driver around his bed. And also we have a suspended seat, so when he hits, his seat can give down some, so that helps him take some of the abuse.
Well, when we return, Chi-Town heats up. It's Carolina Crusher against Gravedigger, and Mad Dog takes on the Equalizer for the semifinals. It's all straight ahead on ESPN. We are about to find out who the best of the beast are in Chicago as the Renegades TNT Monster Truck Challenge moves to the semifinals. Dennis the Menace Anderson and Gravedigger against Carolina Crusher and Gary Porter, a classic matchup. These two guys are after each other.
This could be one of the best matchups of the year. One of my questions have already been answered. Look who's in that left lane. Porter in a qualifying time helped him, but look, Porter goes out. He's going to advance. Richard, that's got to be considered an upset. Two-time winner Gravedigger will not advance in the competition this evening.
A major upset as Carolina Crusher and Gary Porter moves to the championship.
Gary Porter done something everybody wants to do, son. You did exactly what you said you were going to do. You put the Gravedigger away.
I put him away. Me and him, we've been battling it out for a long time, and you know, he'll win one weekend and I'll win one weekend, but I'm going to take the points overall this year.
You qualified quick. You pushed him someplace he didn't want to go. Did you do that on purpose?
I tried to. The right lane I thought was the bad lane, so I put him over there.
Well, it certainly paid off for Gary Porter, as he is going to be in the championship round here. Now, who is he going to face? It'll either be John Bad to the Bone Breen and Mad Dog, or Dangerous David Morris and the Equalizer. Army, give me a pick.
I'm going to pick the kid out of Tennessee. The chassis is just working too good. He's the only truck working on the right side. Now, that's not taking anything away from Breen. He's running awfully good himself, but this kid out of the Volunteer State is really making inroads in this sport, and he's going to be there, Richard. He'll be in the final, so the final is set, and it's going to be all Chevrolet.
And you called it right. Dangerous David Morris, the rookie driver, moves to the final round.
David, a rookie going to the finals. How do you feel about it?
Good.
You're working out of the right lane. Everybody says it's a bad lane. Nobody wants anything to do with it. You keep winning in it. I know he's going to push you over there. Does that bother you at all?
Oh, it makes me happy. I like outside.
Can you win this event tonight? You're looking awfully good.
It just depends on my timing coming over the dirt pile, getting good control once I've got over it, getting back in it.
So David Morris and the Equalizer will get the lane he wants. Carolina Crusher and Gary Porter will get the lane he wants for the championship coming up next. And the little mini monster is just trying to get there. And it's time for us to get on with the question of the week. And this question of the week about the Renegades TNT Monster Truck Challenge comes to us from Ken Ross of Farmingdale, Long Island, New York. And Ken writes that he has noticed on a lot of monster truck events, sometimes the drivers come back with only two-wheel drive instead of the four-wheel drive. And he'd like to know how important four-wheel drive is to have on these 4x4s. I have with me Starvin Marvin Smith of the Stomper Chevrolet. And first of all, Marvin, you don't look like you're starving. But second of all, how important is four-wheel drive?
Rich, I think that the four-wheel drive on your vehicle is the second most important thing on a truck next to your brakes. Because without four-wheel drive, you have half your control gone. The truck is actually operated off the gas pedal. And without that front-wheel drive to pull you back out of your downward motion, the truck will just proceed right on over. So it's very, very important. I know recently I was doing a qualifying round and I hit the cars and I went up and I missed the cars when I came off of them and it went completely over. It was 60% past the point. It was going over. So I just turned the wheel and throttled it, and with the help of the four-wheel drive and the back tires and the front tires pulling, just flipped me right back up again. It actually brought me completely up.
So you can see without that four-wheel drive, Starvin Marvin Smith would have been on his side. And if you have a question of the week about the Renegades TNT Monster Truck Challenge, send it to us at TNT Motorsports, 5515 Poplar Park Boulevard, Louisville, Kentucky, 40228. And if we use one of your questions on a future ESPN broadcast, we'll send you free a TNT Motorsports hat. Well, Army, the stage is set. It's the rookie against the veteran. Carolina Crusher Gary Porter against David Morris and the Equalizer.
Well, Richard, both of them are happy campers. They're both in the lane they want to be in, but one of them will be the winner. He's going to advance and really jump up in his national point chase. The question, like you say, the kid or the veteran, and the kid takes the win back to the volunteer stage.
Calling the top gun, he has got the right stuff. David Morris with his first win of 1989. This will move him up further in the national point standings as he is chasing Dennis Anderson and Gravedigger.
Richard, it's amazing. This kid out of Tennessee has opened a lot of eyes. 1989 is going to be a great year for monster truck racing.
Well, that's going to wrap it up from Chicago. For Army Armstrong, I'm Richard Leake. We'll see you again on the tracks across America.
Join us next time for Powertrax, the most powerful sport on earth. Brought to you by TNT Motorsports, the nation's leader in pulling and monster truck racing.